The giant school floated in space near a small moon. It was called the Galactic Youth Education Center, and children from 20 different alien species came here to learn together. The building was made of shining crystal and metal, with rooms that changed gravity to make everyone comfortable. Commander Vex Thor stood by a large window, watching a human ship get closer. He was a Krillian, covered in green scales that changed color with his feelings. Right now, they showed he was nervous. Humans were new to space, and the stories about them were strange. They came from a dangerous world with heavy gravity and violent weather. They did things for fun that would kill most other species. His assistant Quirin floated nearby. She was a Pylaxian, with purple tentacles and 3 eyes. Her tentacles were shaking a little bit. The human ship docked with a soft bump. The door opened, and 12 human children walked out. They looked so normal. Small bodies, soft skin, no claws or armor. The first one was a boy with brown hair who looked about 11 years old. He smiled big and waved at everyone. His name was Jake Peterson. Next to him was his sister Katie, who had blonde hair and braids. She was 9 years old. Jake said hello to Commander Vex Thor and the other teachers. He seemed excited to be there, not scared at all. The other human children looked around with wide eyes, curious about everything. The teachers showed the human children to their rooms, then took them to meet the other students. Jake and Katie went to Class Sector 7 with students from 15 different species. Their teacher was Qualminox, a tall being who looked like he was made of golden light. He was very smart and liked rules. The first day of school was normal. The human children did math problems and got most of them right. They learned about galactic history, but did not know much, because humans were so new to space. During art time, a girl named Amy made a painting that was very emotional even though her technique was simple. Everything seemed fine until the middle of the day. Qualminox told the students it was time for their break. He called it a recreation period. The humans called it recess. All the students went to Recreation Sphere 4, a big round room with soft floors and climbing structures. The alien children started doing quiet games and gentle exercises like they always did. The human children did something completely different. Jake immediately gathered the other humans into 2 groups. He put Katie, Amy, Sam, and Lucas on one team. He took Ethan, Zoe, and Lily on his team. Then he announced they were playing Capture the Flag. The alien students stopped and stared. They had no idea what Capture the Flag was. Jake explained the rules while pointing to opposite sides of the room. Each team had a base. They put their jackets down to mark the flags. The goal was to run to the other team's base, grab their flag, and bring it back to your base. But if someone from the other team touched you, you were caught and had to go to jail. Your teammates could rescue you from jail by touching you. A young alien named Threx, who had thick gray skin, asked why anyone would want to do this. It sounded very tiring. Jake just grinned and said it was fun. Then he yelled for everyone to start. What happened next shocked every alien watching. The human children exploded into movement. They ran faster than the aliens thought possible for creatures their size. Jake sprinted toward the other team's base, running in a zigzag pattern that made him hard to follow. Ethan and Zoe stayed back to defend their flag, watching everything with sharp eyes. On the other team, Amy ran along the edge of the room, then suddenly cut toward the middle. Sam ran right at the defenders, making them chase him so Katie could sneak past. But the speed was not even the strangest part. It was how they moved their bodies. When Lucas was about to get tagged, he dropped down and slid across the floor on his knees. Then he jumped up and ran the other way. Lily rolled on the ground to dodge someone, then popped back up like it was nothing. Jake jumped over a small barrier that should have been too high for him. The alien children just stood there with their mouths open. Some looked scared. Others looked amazed. After 15 minutes, all 12 humans were breathing hard. Their faces were red and wet with sweat. Several had scraped knees or elbows from falling. None of them seemed worried about it. Jake walked up to Katie and said it was a good game. He put out his hand, and she shook it. They were both smiling. Even though they had been competing hard against each other, the alien students could not understand. The humans looked like they had just fought a battle. But they were happy about it. Qualminox came back to get the students, and found the alien children looking traumatized, while the human children looked energized and cheerful. He asked what happened. Jake said they just played some games. He asked if something was wrong. He really seemed confused about why everyone was acting strange. That evening, Command the emergency meeting started very early in the morning before most students were awake. Commander Vexthor stood in front of a big screen showing Jake running and dodging during yesterday's recess. All the teachers from different alien species sat around a table looking worried. Vexus Thor told everyone they might have a serious problem. He played more videos of the human children playing their games. General Crix was there too. He was a military officer from the Vorgelin species, big and strong with 4 arms. He worked as a security advisor for the school. He said the human children moved like trained soldiers. They showed teamwork and tactical thinking that his own military students did not have until they were much older. Qualminox, the teacher, said something interesting. During regular class, the humans acted like normal children. They got distracted sometimes, asked silly questions, and argued with each other. But the moment recess started, they completely changed. They became focused and coordinated. Principal Thera suggested they should talk to the human adult before making any accusations. She was an Altarian, tall and elegant with silver skin. Her species always tried to solve problems peacefully. The human chaperone was a woman named Lisa Hamilton. She used to be a teacher on Earth and volunteered to help the human children adjust to living in space. When she got the message to come to the emergency meeting, she hurried there, still wearing her pajamas. She asked right away if the children were hurt. Vex Thor told her the children were fine. He wanted to talk about what they did during recess. He showed her the videos. Lisa watched Jake running in zigzag patterns, Lily rolling to avoid being tagged, and Sam sliding on the floor. Her face showed she was confused about why this was a problem. Then she started to laugh. She said she was sorry for laughing. But she did not understand what was wrong. General Crick said firmly that the children were doing military training disguised as play. He wanted to know who approved this, and why humans were preparing children for combat. Lisa stared at him for a long moment. Then she laughed even harder. She said they were not doing military training at all. They were just playing normal playground games. This was what human children did for fun. Everyone in the room went silent. They could not believe what they were hearing. Vexus Thor asked slowly if she was saying that this level of physical intensity and strategy was normal recreation for human children. Lisa said yes, of course. Actually, she said, this was pretty calm compared to what they would do on Earth. She told the children to keep it gentle, because they were playing with species who might not be as tough. Qualminox's voice went high when he asked if that was gentle. Lisa pulled out her datapad and showed them videos from Earth. She showed them a normal elementary school recess at a school in the United States. The video showed hundreds of human children running at full speed, climbing tall structures, throwing balls at each other, and playing a game called soccer, where they kicked a ball and ran into each other. The teachers watching the video looked horrified. General Crix told her to pause on one part. The image showed 2 boys who had crashed into each other while running. Both fell down hard. Both got up within seconds and kept playing like nothing happened. Crix said that impact would have broken bones for most species at this school. Lisa shrugged and said kids were pretty tough. They bounced back quickly. Vex Thor asked about the strategy. The flanking moves. The diversions. The coordinated defense. Who taught the children these tactics? Lisa explained that nobody taught them formally. The children just figured it out on their own. Playing these games helped them develop problem-solving skills, learn teamwork, and build physical fitness. It was all part of normal development. Principal Thera asked carefully if Lisa was saying that human children naturally developed military-type skills just by playing, without anyone teaching them. Lisa said she would not call them military skills. The kids were just being kids, but General Crix and Commander Vex Thor looked at each other. They had both been in the military. They knew military training when they saw it, even if the humans did not realize that was what they were doing. For the next hour, Lisa described different human children's games. The teachers became more alarmed with each description. Dodgeball was a game where children threw balls at each other, trying to hit them. Tag required running fast and dodging. Red Rover involved children forming a chain with their arms and having other children run at them full speed trying to break through. King of the Hill was basically fighting over who could stand on top of a small area. Hide and Seek taught children how to hide and how to track others. Qualminox asked weekly if children actually enjoyed these activities. Lisa said they loved them. The hard part was usually getting children to stop playing. They would skip lunch to keep playing if adults let them. Thera asked about injuries. Surely children got hurt doing these things. Lisa admitted that sometimes children got scraped knees, bruises, or sprained ankles. They had safety rules, and adults watching, of course. But small injuries were considered part of childhood. They helped children learn their limits and learn to be careful. For species who put protective gear on their children for any physical activity, this seemed almost cruel. Vex Thor said he wanted to watch a full recess period himself. He asked if the teachers could observe tomorrow. Lisa said that was fine. She thought once they saw how happy the children were, they would understand better. But that was not what happened. The next day, 12 teachers gathered around Recreation Sphere 4. The human children arrived and Jake noticed all the adults watching. He asked excitedly if they were going to play too. Vex Thor said they were just observing. He told the children to do their normal activities. What followed was 45 minutes of organized chaos. The humans started with a game called Sharks and Minnows. One child was the shark and tried to tag the others as they ran from one side to the other. The children ran incredibly fast and started figuring out patterns to avoid being caught. Faster runners would deliberately get chased to help slower teammates get across safely. Then they played dodgeball. Jake explained the simple rules, but the execution was complex. The humans threw with amazing accuracy. 8-year-old Sam could hit specific body parts. 10-year-old Zoe made her throws curve in the air. They tracked multiple balls at once and made instant decisions. A young Krillian named Vosk tried to join the game. Katie threw a ball at him very gently, but he still stumbled backward in shock. Katie immediately stopped the game and ran to check if he was okay. She looked genuinely worried that she had hurt him. Jake suggested they play something less intense. They switched to freeze tag. In this game, one person was it and tried to tag others. Tagged people had to freeze in place until another player tagged them to free them. The teachers watched the human children track multiple people at once, sprint to escape or rescue, and make strategic decisions about when to risk themselves. What impressed the teachers was how the humans balanced competition with kindness. They played hard but stopped immediately if someone fell. When alien children could not keep up, the humans slowed down to keep the game fun for everyone. Ethan taught some younger aliens a clapping game. Amy organized a group to play, Simon says. Even during free time, the humans naturally chose activities that developed skills. Jake and some others started climbing the walls and support beams of the recreation sphere. They climbed 10 meters up, with no fear at all. Quirin asked nervously how high they should be allowed to go. Lisa said there were safety nets, though she looked a bit worried too. She called up to Jake to not go quite so high. He cheerfully agreed and climbed down easily. When recess ended, the human children were sweaty and energized and happy. The alien children who played with them looked tired but excited. The teachers looked disturbed. Qualminox said quietly to Vex Thor that the humans were not training for war. This was actually worse. Vex Thor asked how it could be worse. Qualminox explained that the children did not need tea. 3 weeks later, the school had changed a lot. The teachers had started adding modified versions of human games to the schedule for all students. Simple versions of tag and ball games were now part of daily activities, adjusted for different types of alien bodies. Teachers reported that students were more fit, cooperated better across species, and seemed happier. But not everyone was happy about these changes. The Valdren were a proud species, and one of the founding members of the galactic community. They believed strongly in discipline, hierarchy, and proper training. Physical training for young Valdren was formal and structured with clear rules and ceremonies. A group of older Valdren students watched the human recess periods with growing annoyance. Their leader was 15-year-old Zarthen. His metal-like features reflected light as he talked to his friends. To Valdren thinking, the chaotic human approach to physical development seemed disrespectful to the whole concept of training. Zarthen told his companions that humans played at development. They treated as fun what should be approached with discipline and seriousness. His friend Krondax agreed. He said the teachers were praising the humans and diluting proper training with these games. The third member of their group was a young female named Zara. She was more thoughtful. She pointed out that the humans got real results. They showed coordination and awareness beyond what their age should allow. Zarthen insisted this came from chaotic, unsupervised play. He said, imagine what humans could achieve with proper structure and discipline. This conversation might have stayed just talk, but Zarthen decided to prove his point. During the next school assembly, he walked up to Jake Peterson, publicly. He spoke formally in the polite way Valdren used before issuing challenges. He said Jake's species' approach to physical development had created much discussion. He proposed a friendly competition to compare the two methods. Jake looked up at Zarthen, who was taller and had the disciplined posture of someone trained since early childhood. Jake asked what kind of competition. Zarthen explained an obstacle course test. The school had training facilities designed for testing different species' physical abilities. Each could assemble a team and try the course. The Valdren would demonstrate proper structured training. The humans could use their play methods. He said the word play with just enough emphasis to make it sound like an insult. Katie, standing next to her brother, recognized this as a challenge. She had dealt with competitive situations back on Earth. She saw Jake's expression change to that look of determination that meant he was about to accept something that might be too hard. Jake said, "Okay, that sounded fun." He asked when. Zarthen seemed surprised by the casual acceptance. He said this coming weekend. Each team brings 6 members. The teachers would judge. Jake agreed and held out his hand to shake on it. Zarthen looked at the hand with curiosity before taking it. He had learned this human custom of physical contact to seal agreements. As Zarthen walked away, Katie asked her brother if he knew what he just agreed to. Jake admitted he did not really, but it would be fun to try something new. Lisa Hamilton was less excited when the children told her that evening. She repeated slowly that they were doing an obstacle course competition with Valdren youth. She reminded Jake that Valdren trained formally for this kind of thing as part of their culture. Jake said he knew. But humans were pretty good at obstacle courses. He mentioned the one at summer camp last year. Alex Turner, one of the older human children at 13, had immediately volunteered. He said the point was showing that their way of learning worked too. This was a chance to prove it. Lisa could not argue with the logic, though she worried about the children's feelings if they lost badly. But she had always taught that trying new things and handling both success and failure were important life skills. She agreed but said they had to do it right. Plan together, practice together, and support each other, no matter what happened. The human team came together quickly. Jake and Katie were obvious choices. Alex brought experience and size as one of the oldest humans at the school. They added Amy for her gymnastics skills, Ethan for his climbing ability, and Lucas, who was good at quick decisions. The Valdren team was equally strong. Zarthen as leader, Krondax, known for strength, Zara, who was the fastest Valdren youth, and 3 others picked for specific abilities. News of the challenge spread through the school fast. Students from every species were picking sides, though most thought the Valdren would win easily. They were older, bigger, and had trained formally in obstacle courses since childhood. 2 days before the competition, Commander Vex Thor called both team leaders to his office. He said firmly that he wanted both teams to understand this was a friendly competition. The goal was not to prove one species better than another, but to show different approaches to physical development. Xar then said he understood. Jake added that they were just excited to try the course. Vex Thor studied Jake, looking for signs of nervousness or overconfidence. He found only honest curiosity. Either Jake did not understand how outmatched his team might be, or he simply did not care about winning the way Xar then clearly did. Vex's Thor explained the course had been set up to challenge multiple body types. There were climbing sections, balance challenges, strength obstacles, and puzzle elements. Each team would run the course twice. Once with planning time first, once with no preparation. Combined times would determine the winner. Jake asked if they could watch the Valdrin practice. Xar then's face showed surprise. In Valdrin culture, showing your training to opponents was foolish. Vexthor said they could if both teams agreed to let the other watch. Xar then agreed after a moment, though his tone suggested he thought the humans were making a mistake. The practice sessions showed two very different approaches. The Valdrin team was impressive. They moved with precision through the course. Each member had been assigned specific obstacles based on their strengths. Xar then called out commands, and his team executed them perfectly. Their technique was flawless, and their time set the school record for their age group. The human team's practice was completely different. Jake looked at the course and said the climbing wall looked hard. Katie agreed, the handholds were far apart. But she suggested, if they helped each other, they could boost people up. Lucas asked if that was allowed. Lisa checked the rules and said nothing prohibited cooperation during obstacles. Alex had a different concern. The balance beam section was rated for lighter species. The course would adjust for heavier ones, but humans might struggle there. Amy suggested going faster, sprinting across before losing balance. Ethan said that seemed risky. Katie said it might work, and they should try both ways. What followed was experimentation. The humans tried obstacles multiple ways, failed often, laughed off mistakes, and gradually developed strategies. They discovered Katie's smaller size let her fit through tight spaces. Alex's height meant he could reach higher holds. Jake's boldness made him good at obstacles requiring commitment. Amy's gymnastics background helped with balance. Where the Valdrin approached the course as individuals following a plan, the humans treated it as a group puzzle to solve together. The day of competition arrived, with over half the school watching. The main gymnasium had been converted for spectators. The obstacle course stretched across 3 levels, with challenges from multiple species training traditions. Principal Thera explained the rules to both teams and the audience. Each team would complete a prepared run first. Then, after a break, a surprise run on a modified course. Combined time wins. Immediately it was clear the human approach would be different. Where the Valdrin moved with measured precision, the humans moved with controlled chaos. They talked constantly, calling out what they saw, and making adjustments. At the first obstacle, a climbing wall with limited handholds, Alex boosted Katie up to a higher level, where she could reach holds that others could not. She secured a rope, and the team used it to help slower climbers. Someone in the crowd asked if that was within the rules. Principal Thera checked and said the rules stated obstacles must be completed by the team. There was no rule against cooperating during completion. The Valdrin efficiency came from individual excellence. The human efficiency came from making the team greater than its parts. At the balance beam section, Amy went first, sprinting across at a speed that seemed reckless, but worked perfectly. She called back timing advice, and the others followed, each adjusting based on her feedback. The puzzle obstacle required pattern recognition to unlock the next area. It slowed them briefly, but where one Valdrin had solved it efficiently alone, all 6 humans contributed observations at once, reaching the solution through teamwork. They nearly lost time at the strength section. The obstacle required moving heavy objects. While Alex was strong for a 13-year-old human, he was not as powerful as Krondax. But the team improvised, using leverage and group effort. Lucas shouted that they could use a bar as a lever. 3 of them working together moved the obstacle designed for one person's maximum strength. The final section was a sprint and climb combination. Each team member had to scale a wall, cross a suspended bridge, and descend to the finish. The Valdrin had done this, one at a time. The humans, reading the rules differently, sent 3 members at once on different sections. Czar then asked sharply if that was legal. The judge checked and said the rules said each member must complete it, not that they must go one at a time. Jake was the last human climbing as the timer ran. He reached the top, looked at the descent path, and made a decision that caused Lisa to gasp. Instead of taking the careful climbing route down, he grabbed the support rope and slid down in 3 seconds, hitting the mat with a roll. He shouted that he was clear, and the timer stopped. 14 minutes and 37 seconds. The crowd went silent for a moment, then exploded into noise. The humans had beaten the Valdrin by 5 seconds. Katie shouted that it was awesome, and the human team came together in a laughing, jumping group hug that turned into a pile on the floor. Czar then stared at the scoreboard with an unreadable expression. But the competition was not over. Both teams had 30 minutes before the second run on the modified course. Neither team would know what changes had been made until they started. During the break, Commander Vex Thor watched both teams carefully. The contrast was illuminating. The Valdrin team sat in a structured circle with Czar, then leading them through mental preparation exercises. They reviewed their first run, identified small inefficiencies, and discussed adaptation principles. Their approach was methodical and controlled. The human team was eating snacks. Jake said around a mouthful of granola bar that they were definitely going to change the course. He asked what everyone thought they would modify. Alex suggested they would make it harder, change angles, move obstacles, add new elements. Katie thought they might move the handholds or change rope positions on the climbing section. Amy said they should stay flexible, not plan too specifically, just be ready to adapt. Lisa watched them with mixed feelings of pride and amazement. They had just completed an intense challenge and beaten older, trained opponents. Yet, they showed no arrogance or overconfidence. They were treating the second run the same way they would treat any playground game. Across the gymnasium, teachers were having a discussion. Qualmanox observed that the humans did not just beat the Valdrin time. They demonstrated a completely different approach to solving problems under physical stress. General Crix added that 3 distinct advantages became apparent. First, their willingness to help each other during obstacles rather than treating each challenge individually. Second, their rapid adaptation and creative interpretation of rules. Third, their apparent lack of fear about minor risks. A Pylaxian medical officer said the slide down the rope at the end could have caused injury. Lisa, who had joined the group, pointed out that it did not cause injury. Jake assessed the risk, knew his capabilities, and executed properly. That was not recklessness. That was confidence developed through experience. Principal Thera said thoughtfully that she was beginning to understand the human philosophy. They did not separate physical development from joy, challenge from fun, or training from recreation. It was all integrated. Lisa confirmed this exactly. When Jake slid down that rope, he was not showing off. He was solving a problem with tools and skills he had developed since he was 5 years old, playing on playgrounds. The break ended. The modified course was revealed. The changes were significant. The climbing wall now had moving handholds. The balance beam was replaced with floating platforms. The puzzle obstacle was now timed. New elements included a section requiring crawling through narrow passages and a team carry component where members had to transport a weighted object together. Both teams saw the modifications at the same time. The Valdrin reaction was professional concern. The human reaction was enthusiastic curiosity. Ethan said excitedly that moving handholds would be really hard. Jake agreed, already studying the patterns and saying it looked cool. XR then looked at his team and told them to remember their training and use Adaptation Protocol 7. The Valdrin went first on the modified course. They were good. Their training included adaptation procedures and they executed well. When handholds moved, they waited for optimal positions before committing. When the puzzle timed out, they remained calm and restarted efficiently. The floating platforms challenged them, but they adjusted by moving more carefully. Their time was 17 minutes and 12 seconds, slower than the first run as expected with the harder course, but still impressive. As they finished, XR then's expression showed controlled satisfaction. 1712 would be very difficult to beat on this modified course. The human team approached the starting line. Lisa could see they were tired from the first run, but their energy had not dropped. The harder course seemed to excite them more. Jake said quietly to his team that they had this. Stay flexible, talk to each other, and remember, it was just a really cool playground. That comment made several teachers exchange glances. To the humans, this competitive challenge against trained opponents was just an elaborate version of recess. The buzzer sounded. The moving handholds were a challenge, but the human approach was characteristically bold. Rather than waiting for optimal positions, Amy went first, moving quickly and trusting her reflexes to catch holds as they moved. She called down observations to the others who followed with increasing confidence. She shouted to not overthink it. Just keep moving. The floating platforms were where human playground experience became decisive. These were not unlike stepping stones, balance challenges, and unstable surfaces they had played on since early childhood. What seemed dangerous to species raised with structured environments was familiar to children who spent years playing on equipment designed to challenge their balance. Katie crossed the platforms at a speed that seemed reckless, her body automatically making tiny adjustments to maintain balance. The others followed her path, trusting her judgment. The timed puzzle caused a brief slowdown until Lucas had an insight. He said they did not all need to work on it. 4 of them could keep going while 2 solved the puzzle. It was creative interpretation that played to their tendency toward doing multiple things at once. The judges confirmed it was legal. While Lucas and Amy solved the puzzle, the other 4 advanced to the next obstacles. The crawling section favored smaller individuals, and Katie's size advantage meant she could move through quickly and call back information about the path. But the team carry section showcased the human approach most clearly. The weighted object was designed to require coordinated effort. The Valdrin had lifted it formally with called-out timing and synchronized movements. It was efficient, but slow. The humans picked it up and just ran with it. Alex chanted go, 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 and they moved at a pace that seemed impossible while carrying something heavy. They were laughing, encouraging each other, treating the challenge like a group game. Someone in the crowd predicted they would drop it. They did not. Years of group play, of carrying friends, of cooperative games, had built coordination that did not require formal commands. The final climbing section was the new challenge. The descent Jake had slid down before was now blocked, requiring a different route. But the humans had watched the Valdrin run. They saw how the modified descent worked. Rather than following the Valdrin careful approach, Jake and Alex found a faster path by UXR. Then said slowly that they trained formally from age 7. Structured progressions, measured improvement, disciplined practice. Jake said that was really cool. He explained that humans kind of just played. They had playgrounds and games and stuff. He guessed it was similar, but more casual. XR then looked at this smaller, younger being who had just led a team to victory over Valdrin youth. He asked if Jake was not trained for this. Jake admitted not formally. But he had been climbing trees and playing tag and doing obstacle courses at summer camp since he was little. All the humans had. Zara, the female Valdrin, spoke up. She said the way the human team communicated during the course was trained behavior. They must have practiced those protocols. Katie shook her head. They were just talking to each other. That was what you did during games. The Valdrin team struggled to process this. Their entire cultural understanding of physical development was built on structure, discipline, and formal training. The humans achieved equal or better results through what they genuinely considered play. Principal Thera took the opportunity to address everyone assembled. She said that today they witnessed 2 different philosophies of development. Both had merit. Both produced remarkable results. The Valdrin demonstrated the power of discipline, structure, and measured progression. The humans demonstrated the power of adaptive play, creative problem-solving, and development driven by joy. She paused, looking at both teams. Perhaps the lesson was not that one approach was superior. Perhaps the lesson was that they could learn from each other. Commander Vex Thor stepped forward. He proposed making this demonstration the foundation for a new program. Mixed species teams, combining different training philosophies, learning from each other's strengths. Zar then was quiet for a long moment. Then slowly he approached Jake and extended his hand in the human gesture he had learned. He said formally that Jake's team performance was impressive. He would be interested in understanding their methods better. Jake's face split in a wide grin. He asked if Sar then wanted to play capture the flag with them tomorrow. They could teach him, and maybe he could show them some Valdrin training exercises. The idea of playing what he considered childish games still did not sit comfortably with Zarthen's cultural conditioning. But he had just been soundly beaten by those childish games. He said he would be willing to try. Over the next weeks, something remarkable happened at the school. The human children did not just teach other species their games. They learned from them too. The Valdrin taught the humans formal climbing techniques that improved their efficiency. The Xantharians shared focusing exercises that enhanced strategic planning. The Krillians demonstrated defensive positions that proved useful in team games. In return, the humans taught the concept of playing for the sake of playing, of finding joy in physical challenge, of learning through doing rather than just through instruction. Katie organized a mixed-species capture-the-flag tournament that became a weekly event. Alex started a climbing club that combined human-style free climbing with Valdrin technical precision. Amy led sessions that incorporated flexibility training from 3 different species. The teachers observed these developments with fascination. What they were witnessing was cultural exchange at its most fundamental level. Children from different worlds learning to play together, and in doing so, building bridges that would last their entire lives. One evening, Lisa Hamilton sat with Commander Vex Thor, watching a recreation period where 30 children from 8 species played an elaborate game that combined elements no one species had invented alone. Lisa recalled that Vex Thor had been worried initially about the human children's intensity. He admitted he was. He thought they were training child soldiers. Lisa asked what he thought now. Vex Thor said thoughtfully that now he understood they were training survivors. But not just survivors in the sense of enduring danger, survivors in the sense of thriving despite challenges, adapting to new situations, finding joy even in difficulty. Lisa said softly that was what play was. It was how children learned they were capable, that challenges could be overcome, that falling down was not failure if you got back up. It was practice for life. On the recreation sphere, Jake was explaining the rules of a new hybrid game to XR then, who was actually smiling. A rare expression for Valdrin. XR then confirmed the goal was to get the flag, but you also had to solve a puzzle to unlock it, and while doing that the other team tried to tag you. Jake said right, and if you got tagged, you were frozen until a teammate freed you. But the cool part that Katie added was you could challenge the person who tagged you to a speed puzzle. If you won, you freed yourself. Zar then said, that seemed unnecessarily complicated. Jake agreed but said it was fun. Xar then considered this. In Valdrin culture, games had winners and losers, clear objectives, defined rules. This human game seemed to prioritize fun over clarity, adaptation over structure. It still felt slightly chaotic to his ordered mind, but he found himself looking forward to playing it. That was perhaps the greatest gift the humans brought to the school. Not just their games or their impressive physical abilities, but the simple idea that challenge and joy did not have to be separate things. A month after the obstacle course competition, Commander Vex Thor filed his final report on the Human Integration Program. His conclusion read that initial concerns about human juvenile activities had been thoroughly addressed. What appeared to be military training was actually an evolved developmental system where physical challenge, strategic thinking, and social cooperation were integrated through recreational activity. This approach proved beneficial not just for human development, but offered lessons for all species. He recommended continuing and expanding cross-species recreational programs. The skills developed through human-style play, adaptation, creative problem-solving, resilience, and cooperative competition were valuable for all young beings. He added an observation. If this was how humanity developed its children, the galactic community had greatly underestimated this species' potential, not because they were training warriors, but because they were raising adaptable, confident, joyful individuals who treated challenges as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles to avoid. In short, human recess was not military training. It was something potentially more powerful. It was preparation for a life lived fully and fearlessly. 6 months had passed since the humans first arrived at the Galactic Youth Education Center. The changes they brought had spread far beyond anyone's initial expectations. What started as concern about 12 human children had transformed into a galaxy-wide discussion about childhood development. Commander Vex's Thor stood in the main observation deck, watching the morning recreation period. The scene below would have been unimaginable half a year ago. 60 children from 15 different species were playing a game that combined human tag with Valdran strategy exercises and Xantharian meditation principles. They had invented it themselves. A young Krillian named Vosk, who 6 months ago had been startled by a gentle dodgeball throw, now led a mixed team with confidence. He moved slower than the humans but had learned to use his armored body strategically. Next to him, Katie Peterson helped a small Pixinian named Crystal navigate an obstacle, both of them laughing. Principal Thera approached Vex Thor with a data pad. She said the reports from other schools in the galactic community were remarkable. 17 education centers had requested information about integrating play-based learning into their programs. 5 species councils were reviewing their childhood development protocols. Vex Thor asked if there was any resistance. Thera admitted some traditional educators argued this was abandoning proper structure, but the results were hard to ignore. Student fitness levels had increased across all species. Cooperative skills had improved. Most surprisingly, academic performance had actually gone up, not down as some predicted. She explained that children who spent time in active play showed better focus during academic lessons. The physical activity seemed to help their brains work better. Vex Thor said this made sense from what they had learned about human evolution. Humans developed as active hunters and gatherers. Their brains evolved to work best when their bodies were also active. Other species were learning from this. Below them, Jake was teaching a group of younger students a game called Freeze Dance. Music played, and everyone danced. When the music stopped, everyone had to freeze in place. It was simple, but helped develop body control and listening skills. A group of Altarian children, whose species normally moved with very deliberate grace, were giggling as they tried to freeze in silly positions. Lisa Hamilton joined the 2 administrators. She looked proud as she watched her students. She said she never imagined this outcome when they first arrived. Thera asked what surprised her most. Lisa thought for a moment. She said probably how much the human children had grown too. They came here thinking their way was normal, and everyone else was fragile. Now they understood that different did not mean weaker, just different. They had learned to adapt their play to include everyone. She pointed to where Alex was playing a modified version of basketball with a Vorgolin who had 4 arms. They had adjusted the rules so the Vorgolin's extra arms were an advantage in passing, but not in shooting. It kept the game balanced and fun. Vex Thor received a message on his communicator. He read it, and his scales shifted to surprised yellow. He said the Galactic Education Council wanted to establish an official cultural exchange program. They were asking this school to serve as the pilot location. The program would bring in adult experts from different species to learn from each other. Human recreation specialists would teach play-based development. Valdran would teach structured progression. Xantharians would teach strategic thinking integration. The goal was creating a new, hybrid approach to childhood development that took the best from every culture. Thera said this was unprecedented. The council had never moved this quickly on educational reform. Lisa said maybe they finally understood that how children learn to move, play, and challenge themselves affects everything else. You cannot separate the body from the mind, or fun from learning. Humans had always known this instinctively. A commotion from the recreation sphere drew their attention. It was not a problem, just excitement. Czar then had successfully completed a challenge that combined human style, climbing with a complex puzzle. His mixed species team was celebrating, having adopted the human custom of high fives and group hugs. 6 months ago, Czar then would have been embarrassed by such informal celebration. Now he grinned widely, his metallic features actually showing joy. The change in him was remarkable. Zara, his Valdran teammate, had changed too. She had started a journal documenting games from different cultures. She told Lisa last week that she wanted to become a teacher and help other Valdran children learn to balance discipline with joy. That evening, there was a special assembly. Principal Thera announced the new cultural exchange program. She also announced something else. The school was being renamed. It would now be called the Galactic Youth Development Center. The change from education to development was significant. It acknowledged that learning happened in many ways, not just in classrooms. Thera gave credit to the human students for inspiring this change. She asked Jake, as the unofficial leader of the human group, to say a few words. Jake looked nervous as he approached the podium. Public speaking in front of 200 beings from 20 species was intimidating. But Katie gave him an encouraging nod. He said he was not good at speeches, but he wanted to say that coming here had taught him something important. He used to think playing was just something kids did because it was fun. Now he understood it was how you learned to be yourself, to work with others, to handle challenges. He said every species here had taught the humans something. The Valdran showed them discipline and precision. The Xantharians taught them to think strategically. The Krillians demonstrated patience. The Pixinians showed them creativity. He hoped the humans had given something back too. Maybe they reminded everyone that learning could be joyful, that challenges could be fun, and that different species could become friends by playing together. When he finished, the applause was thunderous. It came from every species present. After the assembly, there was a celebration. Someone had organized a massive multi-species game tournament. Teams were deliberately mixed, with no team having more than 2 members of the same species. The games included human tag, Valdran obstacle courses, Xantharian strategy puzzles, and several hybrid games that had been invented at the school over the past months. Lisa found herself playing on a team with General Crix, the Vorgelin military officer who 6 months ago had been concerned about human children conducting military training. Now he was laughing as he tried to explain to a young Altarian how to throw a ball in an arc. During a break, Lisa asked him if he still thought human recess was military training. Crix considered this seriously. He said in a technical sense, yes, the skills developed did have military applications, but he had been thinking about it wrong. Every skill had potential military applications. Running, climbing, strategic thinking, teamwork. The question was not whether skills could be used for military purposes. The question was what else they could be used for. He said human play developed skills that made better soldiers. Yes, but also better explorers, better problem solvers, better teammates, better friends. The same physical confidence that made humans formidable in combat made them confident in every aspect of life. He gestured at the playing children. 6 months ago, he saw potential soldiers. Now he saw potential leaders, scientists, artists, diplomats, all developing the foundation they would need for whatever path they chose. Lisa said that was exactly right. The goal was not to create soldiers. The goal was to create capable, confident individuals who could handle whatever life brought them. As the celebration continued into the evening, small groups gathered in various parts of the station. In one corner, Czar then was teaching a group of younger students a Valdran meditation technique. But he had modified it, combining it with human breathing exercises learned from Amy. The hybrid approach worked better than either original technique alone. In another area, Katie and Crystal the Pixinian were choreographing a dance that combined human movement with Pixinian light refraction. When they performed it, Crystal's crystalline body caught and bent light in patterns that matched Katie's movements. It was beautiful. Jake and several others had found an empty cargo bay and set up an improvised obstacle course. But this one was different. Each obstacle had been designed by a different species. There was a Valdran precision climb, a human balance challenge, a Xantharian puzzle gate, and a Krillian strength test. As they ran the course, they were not competing against each other. They were competing against their own previous times, encouraging each other, celebrating improvements. Commander Vex Thor watched from above. Quirin, his assistant, floated beside him. She said it was hard to remember how concerned everyone was when the humans first arrived. Vex's Thor said he had been most concerned. He thought humans would be disruptive. He was right, but not in the way he expected. They disrupted assumptions about how children should learn and grow. Quirin asked what he thought would happen next. Vex Thor said he believed this was just the beginning. The galactic community had become stagnant in some ways. Most species had achieved stable, safe societies and stopped taking risks. They forgot that growth required challenge. Humans remembered. Or rather, they never forgot. Their dangerous world forced them to stay adaptable, to keep challenging themselves. Now they were sharing that gift. He predicted that in a generation, the children growing up with this new hybrid approach to development would change the galaxy. They would be more adaptable, more creative, more capable than any previous generation. Quirin said that sounded hopeful. Vex Thor agreed it was. For the first time in centuries, he felt genuine excitement about the future. The celebration wound down late into the night. As students returned to their dormitories, tired but happy, Lisa did a final check on the human children. She found them in their common room, too excited to sleep. They were talking about everything that had happened. Amy said she could not believe how much had changed. When they arrived, they were the weird ones who played too rough. Now, everyone wanted to learn their games. Ethan pointed out they had learned a lot too. He said he used to think their way was the only way. Now he understood there were many good ways to do things. Lucas said the best part was making friends with so many different beings. Back on Earth, everyone was human. Here, his best friend was a Krillian, and he was learning meditation from a Xantharian and playing music with a Pixinian. Jake, quieter than usual, said he thought this was what humanity joining the galactic community was supposed to be about. Not just humans learning from aliens, but everyone learning from everyone. Katie added that her teacher back on Earth said the best learning happened through play. She thought maybe that was true for whole civilizations too. The galactic community was learning to play together, and that would make them all stronger. Lisa felt tears in her eyes. These children, who 6 months ago were just excited to go to space school, had become ambassadors for a new way of thinking. They had not tried to change the galaxy. They just tried to be themselves, to share what they loved, and to learn from others. Sometimes that was enough. As she turned off the lights and wished them good night, Lisa thought about the report she would send to Earth. How could she explain what had happened here? That 12 children playing tag and climbing walls had started a revolution in how the galaxy thought about childhood development. She decided to keep it simple. She would tell Earth that the human children were doing great. They were making friends, learning a lot, and teaching others. They were being good representatives of humanity, and in their free time, they were changing the galaxy, one game at a time. Outside the window, stars filled the darkness of space. Somewhere out there, other species were hearing about what was happening at this school. Other educators were questioning their assumptions. Other children were asking if they could play like the humans played. The change was slow but inevitable. Like water, wearing away stone, joy and play were reshaping the rigid structures of galactic education. And at the center of it all were 12 human children who just wanted to have fun. Sometimes, That was the most powerful force in the universe. As Vex Thor finished his report, he looked out at the recreation sphere, where a chaotic, joyful game involving 40 children from 12 species was reaching its conclusion. Someone scored, and the celebration that followed included victory dances from 3 different cultures and a group hug that violated personal space norms for at least 5 species. No one seemed to mind. The galaxy had spent centuries believing that safety and growth required careful control, structured progress, and the minimization of risk. The humans were proving that maybe the path to developing capable, confident beings ran through playgrounds, not just classrooms. And in that moment, watching children from across the galaxy playing together with pure, unrestrained joy, Commander Vex Thor thought that perhaps the humans' greatest gift to the galactic community was not their impressive technology or their formidable military. It was reminding everyone else how to play. Sing holds that required more reach but could be navigated quicker by their taller frames. Jake called to Katie to use the support cables and climb like they were ropes. Katie immediately understood, treating the support structures like rope climbs common in human gyms. It was harder, but much faster for someone with the right experience. The last human crossed the finish line, and the timer stopped. 15 minutes and 59 seconds. The silence was profound. Then the gymnasium erupted in cheering from human and alien students alike. The humans had not just beaten their first time. They beat it on a significantly harder course. They adapted faster and more effectively than opponents with formal adaptation training. Zar then stood motionless, staring at the scoreboard. His team gathered around him, looking confused and frustrated. Jake approached, slightly out of breath. He said that was so much fun, and the Valdrin team was amazing. He asked how they trained for courses like this. The casual sincerity in his voice seemed to break through Xarthen's shock. Safety features were in place, and medical teams were ready. The purpose was demonstration and learning, not proving dominance. The Valdrin team went first on the prepared run. They were magnificent. Zar then led with commanding presence. His team flowed through obstacles with smooth efficiency. Krondax handled strength obstacles perfectly. Zara flew through agility sections. When they crossed the finish line, their time was posted. 14 minutes and 42 seconds. The crowd erupted in applause. It was a superb performance. Jake said genuinely to the Valdrin team that they were amazing and so coordinated. Zar then accepted the compliment with a slight nod. But his expression suggested he expected the humans to give up now. The human team gathered at the starting line. Lisa gave them final encouragement. She reminded them it was not about winning, but showing what teamwork and adaptation looked like. Have fun. The buzzer sounded, and the humans exploded into motion, raining. They naturally developed combat skills just by playing. It was built into how they grew up. Vex Thor's scales turned thoughtful blue. He said these were not really combat skills. They were survival skills. The human world was so dangerous that even children's play prepared them for physical threats. General Crix, who had been taking notes, asked what this said about adult humans. Nobody wanted to answer that question. That evening, Vexi Thor wrote his report. He concluded that human children's activities were not military training on purpose, but they did develop skills that could be used for military purposes. This seemed to be an evolutionary adaptation to their dangerous home world. He recommended continued observation. Human children were not deliberately threatening, but teachers should understand their significant physical capabilities. What he did not write, but everyone was thinking, was the scary question. If this is what human children do for fun, what can their actual soldiers do? Vex Thor sat in his office watching recordings of the human recess period. He watched them 3 times. His scales kept changing colors, from confusion to surprise to something like respect. He stopped the video on a picture of 8-year-old Sam jumping through the air to catch a ball. Sam was 3 meters off the ground and did not look worried at all about falling. Quirin whispered that the humans were children. Why did they move like trained soldiers? Vex Thor said slowly that he did not think the humans knew they were moving like soldiers. For them, this was just normal playing. In the human sleeping area, the children were talking about their first day. Lily said it was fun, but she thought they scared the other kids. Ethan said they were just playing tag, which was the most basic game ever. Katie suggested that maybe the alien version of these games was different. They should ask tomorrow and be more careful. The human children had no idea that across the station, all the teachers were having an emergency meeting. They were trying to figure out what the humans were training their children for. Was this some kind of secret military program? Should the other species be worried? The truth was actually scarier than any military conspiracy. The humans were not training their children for war at all. This was just how human children played. This was normal for them. And if this was how human children played, what were adult humans capable of? The galactic community was about to learn something important about humanity. They were about to learn that humans grew up treating dangerous physical challenges as entertainment. They were about to learn that human children naturally developed skills that other species had to train for years to learn. Most importantly, they were about to learn that the most dangerous thing about humans was not their weapons or their ships. It was that every single human, even the children, was raised to be a survivor. The next morning would bring even more surprises.